Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be drafting a basic bodice pattern. Um, I'll start by marking out 1 inch, and this is going to serve as my shoulder line. I'm just going to write shoulder line on that point. So next I'm going to mark my bust point. My bust point is 11 inches. I'll connect those points together, and next I'm going to mark my under bust point, which is 14 inches from the shoulder line. Next I'm going to mark my waistline. My waistline on the front is 17 inches, so I'm going to mark that and then create a horizontal line as well for my waistline. I'm just going to label my bust line, my under bust line, and my waistline. Next, I'm going to mark the length of my top, which is 24 inches. So that will be the length of the bodice pattern. So that is my hip line. The next thing I'm going to do, shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 7.5. I'm going to mark that right there, and then I'm going to mark 3 inches from my center front, another 3 inches on the depth. This is going to be my neckline. So I'm going to use my curve ruler to create a neckline right there, and under the measurement of my shoulder, which was divided by 2, that gave us 7.5, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and I'm going to use my ruler to slant that to my neck point. So this is going to be my shoulder slope. The next thing is to divide our bust by 6 inches plus 1.5. That would give us the depth of our armhole. So mine is 7.5, so I'm going to mark 7.5 from my shoulder slope downwards. That would give me my chest line. So after marking that point, I'm going to connect to my ruler and then braid it as chest line. Making sure that this is 7.5, I'm going to use my ruler to draw a straight line, and that would be the depth of our armhole. Measuring with my tape rule, I'll divide it by 2 and then mark that point. Divide it by 2. This is one easy way to divide sometimes, so I'm going to mark that point. Now I'm going to also come in by half an inch, measure my bust measurement, which is divided by 4, so that will give me 9 inches. I've marked 9 inches, and next thing I'm going to do is to use my pattern master to create my armhole curve. Now this is my armhole curve. Now on my bust point, I'm going to divide my nipple to nipple into 2 and mark it on my bust line, my under bust line, my waistline, as well as my hip line. So this is going to serve as a line for our darts. So I'm going to connect those points with a straight line. Don't forget, your bust dart starts from your bust line, so you're going to mark that on your bust line your nipple to nipple divided by 2. So on my waist point, I'm coming in by 3/4 or 0.5 on both sides. So I'm using 3/4 on the left hand side as well as the right hand side. So is it that 3/4 is also the same as 0.5. So now I'm going to come up by 2 inches on my hip point. So using my ruler, I'm going to connect those points to create my dart. So I'm going to slant this line to my waist point and then do the same on the other side. So I'm going to connect to that point that I've marked, that's 2 inches above your hip line. So this is our dart. You can see it's looking all nice. Next thing I'm going to do is to mark my waist point divided by 4. So don't forget, you're also going to be including your dart measurement as well. So my waist circumference divided by 4, and then I'm going to also add this same measurement of the dart on the side of my waist. That is to create enough allowance after you have taken out your dart. So next I'm going to divide my hip by 4. Using my ruler, I'm going to connect my chest point to my waistline. So next I'm going to use the curved end of my pattern master to join my hip to my waist or your waist to your hip. To create a side dart, you're going to come up by 1 inch on your under bust line. So you use your ruler to connect that to your bust dart. So that will serve as your side dart. So this is an alternative way to create a dart if you don't want to do a princess dart. So you use as a side dart. As you can see, your front pattern is done. Now we're going to just cut it out for you to see what it looks like. For the back, we're going to mark 1 inch again to create our shoulder line. Next, on the center back, I'm going to come in by 1 inch. This is going to serve as our zip allowance. So I'm going to mark that, use my ruler and create a straight line. This is going to serve as our zip allowance. That's our shoulder line. Next, I'm going to mark my bust line, which is 11 inches on the back. I'll label that as my bust line. So bear in mind that the length of my waist on the front is longer than on the back. So on the front is 17 inches and on my back measurement is not going to be the same. So the front is 17 inches. So on the back is 16 inches for me. So I'm going to mark 16 inches. So because of our bust, the length is usually longer in front and shorter at the back because you have no bust at the back. So I'm going to create a horizontal line and label that as our waistline. The next thing to do is to transfer the length of our waist to hip on the front to the back. So we'll transfer this from our waist to our hip, which is 7 inches. We're going to mark it on the back. The reason for this is because our waist is longer on the front. So if you mark exactly the same length on the back, you have a longer back. So to have exactly same length, you just have to transfer your waist to hip measurement on the back, and after you're done sewing it will still be the same length, so that will serve as a hip line. So now we're going to create our neckline. We're going to use the same neck width that we used in front, which was 3 inches. We're going to mark 3 inches for our neck width, and for our neck depth we're going to be using 1.5 inches. So I'm going to use the curved part of the pattern master and create a neckline on the back. So extending our neckline measurement, remember it was 7.5 in front because you divided your total shoulder measurement by 2. So I'll come down by 1 inch just like we did in the front and then slant it to create our shoulder slope. Now I'm going to create the depth of our armhole, which is also our chest line, which is 7.5 inches. You all remember how we did that? We did that in the front. So is your bust measurement by 6 plus 1.5. That's how to get your chest line measurement. So I'm going to create a horizontal line and label it as my chest line. Now I'm going to use my ruler to mark in the depth of our armhole like we did in the front. Again, we're going to divide the depth of our armhole by 2 and then come in by ½ inch just like we did in the front, and then remember we'll mark our bust measurement by 4, which was 9 inches. So I'm going to use the curved end of the pattern master to create our shoulder slope. So now remember we did nipple to nipple by 2. We're going to do that as well in front at the back. So that will start on our chest line. So we'll mark our nipple to nipple by 2 on the chest line, the same on the bust line, waistline, and our hip line. So my nipple to nipple was 7 inches, so divided by 2 it was 3.5, and that's what I've just marked. And I'm going to create a straight line to serve as a line for our back dart. So just like we did in the front, 3/4 or 0.5 inch on both sides, and then I'm going to come up by 2 inches again, just like in the front pattern. So I'm just going to use my ruler to create our darts. So now I'm marking my waist measurement and my bust line as well. Connect points, just like exactly we did in the front with a slight, the only difference is the zip allowance really, and then the length of our dart, which started on the chest line at the back. So on your waistline, just to shaping your zip, I'm coming in by ½ inch. This is going to give you a flat looking zip without any excess on the back. So it's going to make your zip sit very well on your back. So after that, you slant those lines just like I did, and then cut out your pattern